Welcome into the Dad Verb Podcast, where we chat about parenting from the lens of a dad. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined by Andrew Saunders and Ben Brown. This week's episode, we're going to be chatting about making friends as an adult and as a new parent. Navigating that space has proven difficult for some of us, me particularly, and we'll open up that conversation, and we're gonna move on to the importance of self-care for dads, and then we're gonna wrap it up with some Discord comments and then a 5-star review. That and more on this episode. Let's kick it off with our sick check. How are we doing health-wise, gentlemen? Is the streak up to 3 weeks now or so, a few weeks now? I don't even know where we're at right now, but I'm healthy. We're doing okay. How are you guys doing?
I'm healthy. We're all healthy. I think our guests keep ruining it for us.
Everybody's good in our household. We've got a teething baby still, but yeah, everybody's disease-free at the moment.
There you go.
Hey, man. Love to hear it.
I'll save it for wins.
All right. Well,
you said teething, and my brain went, "Oh yeah, hey!" And then we have a whole section for that. So,
guys, just as a heads up, I'm probably going to be talking over some of these guys a little bit because I've been having some lag issues recently. So, just as a heads up, if I'm talking over some of my co-hosts here, I apologize for that delay. But we're going to do our best to keep it smooth for all the listeners out there. But real quick, just want to thank you all for continuing to listen because we are coming up on 10,000 downloads. We are just a couple hundred shy of that. Andrew, do you want to like quickly run through some of these numbers for us? Because this is it's kind of cool. Just having zero expectations. This is great.
I can. So purely talking about downloads, not all of you wonderful viewers on YouTube. Almost 25% of our listeners are overseas. So Germany's coming in at 129 downloads since we started. Go Germany. Australia, 340. The United Kingdom at 570. And our friends to the Great White North, they're at 733 downloads of our almost 10,000. So thanks for being the better part of 25%, I guess.
Let's go.
It doesn't seem like it adds up, but when you run the percentages, it works.
Dude, this is
anyway,
awesome. I remember
it
was, I think like the first episodes we randomly were like trending up in Brazil. I think that's gone away. But hey, it's cool to see these numbers. Other. Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah. I'm happy to see these numbers. This is really cool. Really having really no expectations to have people tuning in, listening. This is great. This is really great. Well, guys, let's do we have any wins or woes for this week of note? I honestly don't really have anything. It's been really chill. I can confirm Pokemon insert of the day. I am holding up a booster. There's 50 booster packs, booster packs of these Pokemon cards I'll be giving away for Halloween. I'm really excited to make some kids' days, man. Last year they were swarming me, so I'm gonna get a couple of these things, but to give away for Halloween. But you know me, I got to be giving away the Pokemon cards for Halloween. So yeah, that's my win. Being able to snag that because it was kind of hard to find.
It's a good tradition.
What about you guys?
Did we lose him? He's like frozen now.
We might have.
Oh, am I frozen?
So Ben, do you have any wins?
He's back.
Do you have any wins for the week while Andrew's taking a break in the Great White North there?
So we definitely have some woes in our household. So our son just turned 3. So we are deep in the our three-nager years where he is asserting his independence and everything is no, everything is an argument, everything is a bit of a power struggle. So it's been a stressful couple of months in our household. The flip side of that though is like as challenging as he is, it's also really fun to watch him growing into like this little boy, right? He asks super interesting questions. He comes out with stuff that like we're not teaching him. So obviously like he's learning, he's picking things up out in the world and then he's bringing that back home. And then the other stuff is he's, definitely a reflection of the things we say and do around him. which is really interesting to see those things come back at you, especially like disciplinary tactics. Like we have this thing where I always say he has, I'll give him multiple options. And I say, all right, bud, you have two options. You can do this or you can do this. And the other night at bedtime, he wanted me to sit on the floor while he fell asleep instead of lay in his bed. And he decided to, I said, no, I wasn't going to do that. And he rolled over and looked me dead in the face and said, Daddy, you have two options. You can sit on the floor or you can go. I was like, wow. Excuse me? And he goes, Daddy, you have two options. And he like slowed it down for me like I was stupid and I didn't understand. He's like, you have two options. You can either sit on the floor or you can leave my room. And I was like, I guess I'm going to go then. I will, I'll see you in the morning. And
you don't win this one.
No, I left and I talked to my wife and I was like, so that's what that sounds like coming from me, huh? And she's like, yeah, that's exactly what that sounds like. I was like, wow, maybe I need to find a different way to do this. So
there you go.
It's cool watching him learn, but man, he picked up a lot of stuff real fast that is coming back to bite me a bit.
Has he thrown a curse word at you yet?
All the time.
It's one of those. Oh, okay.
He picked up all my road rage when he was younger. His first F word was before he turned 2.
All right. I'm waiting for my 2-month-old to just throw one at me.
Yes. So I've calmed it down quite a bit, but yes, I used to. I have worked on my road rage in my old age, but yes, I get very fired up when driving around at the stupidity that happens around me.
Ben's working on George's breathing technique.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've got all my goose for bars and my breathing techniques happening every time I drive.
Nice.
So let's get into our first talking point here, and it's something that I am quite passionate about because it's something that we struggled with early on, especially with our first. And that's making friends as a new parent, as an adult in general. Because I feel like the friends that I had before kids were different from the ones that I had after kids. It felt like two separate lives. When we started having kids, I feel like we were probably among the first of our kind of friend group, I guess you could say, that started having kids. And there's like no bad blood or anything like that with friends. It's just a different life. And you kind of start to pull away and start to lose some of those friends and those relationships that you had before, just because they don't really, I guess, understand your scheduling, your new life, and the things that are going on with you, how you can't just kind of drop things on a dime and then just go out, the structure of your life is different and it's not fully understood. And it kind of makes it hard to then, make new friends. But that is such a heavy part of your personal mental health and who you are as, as a person, because you're a product of your environment, right? And when your environment is just like you, baby and wife, it's very limited. It's very hard. And you start to kind of have this like roommate syndrome where you're just kind of like start nagging at each other, right? And that social element is extremely important, but it's also difficult to find those friends. So I wanted to ask you guys, pose that question to you. How did you navigate that? How did you kind of, find new friends, new parent friends? Were they the same as before? Were they different as before? How did you navigate this kind of complex social world?
So, I mean, I kind of lucked into the fact that I moved to Utah as an adult. So I had no friends when I got here, and I had to make all new friends as an adult. So I kind of had an established adult single life friend group, right? And we all, for the most part, got married, had kids within 7 years of each other, right? I mean, I'm on the older end of that group, but like you were saying, my buddy who's a couple years older than me, still single, he'll call me up like, hey, you want to go to the bar? Like, no, I cannot meet you at the bar on a Tuesday for 4 hours to have 6 beers. Like, I'm sorry, this isn't a state where I can bring a 2-year-old into a bar. If it was, I might be like, sure, me and the kid are coming to the bar. I'll have a beer and sit and chat with you while she makes googly eyes at you. But he doesn't get it. And he feels like, well, we're drifting apart as friends, or you're never available. And it's like, dude, I have a kid. Like, you want to go drink at the bar, and I'm sitting here covered in someone else's vomit, feces, and formula, right? And like, I'm just going, where's a shower? That's
yeah.
So,
I mean, they just don't understand like how difficult it is. It's hard for them to like put themselves in your shoes,
right?
But why should they? Of course they're not going to understand.
Right.
So that's what's difficult.
I mean,
it's like
that being said, it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be to make new friends as an adult, but I had to make sure I utilized the tools that were available to me, right? So like, it was big to go do, like, I used Meetup a lot, right? Hey, I want to go hiking this weekend. Who's doing hikes? Do I like any of the 5 people that showed up on the hike? Are we going to exchange information, right? I joined a book club. I joined a writing club. Like, these are things that I don't do anymore, but it was like, I have to get out there and meet other adults that are doing things I enjoy. And like, I basically assembled a friend group by picking my favorite humans from these weird little events that I went to, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Ben.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I definitely think it's, I think the hardest thing about this, right, is when you become a parent, your priorities shift drastically. Like, I feel like my priorities really came into focus, where at the center of that are my kids and my family. Like that's absolutely number one. So there's a lot of stuff that I say no to so that I can say yes to more things with them. So, going out with friends, doing this, doing that. Now, that being said, I think that my wife and I are very fortunate in that we've been in the city that we're in for probably almost 15 years now, 14, 15 years. We moved right out of college. So I think it's actually 14 this year. The group of friends that we met very early on when we moved to the city. And actually, even some of our friends from college ended up in the same city. So we've all kind of evolved to a very similar place where a lot of us like had kids around the same size, like around the same age, or we've got kids that are all anywhere between like 7 months and maybe 8 years old, right? So it's a pretty broad swath, but it makes it much easier having that sort of built-in parenting friend group because they all had kids around the same age as us. They all understand it. We all trust each other with each other's kids. So it makes it a lot easier for us to hang out in that group. And I think that's one of the challenges, right? Is like being in a friend group, especially with people who do not have kids, it's harder to enjoy that event because you're still completely responsible for your own children, right? Whereas if you go to a place where all of your friends are also parents and have kids around the same age, everybody kind of communally parents each other's kids, where it's like we all have similar parenting styles. So like somebody will take a turn in the playroom with all the kids and just go, okay, for the next 30 minutes, like so-and-so is going to be up there in the playroom, and then they come down and somebody else switches out. We all have free reign to like discipline each other's children to a degree. So it makes it a much more relaxed environment for everybody to be able to enjoy their time.
That was actually really interesting.
And I feel like that's something that's hard to build out.
The comfort of disciplining other kids, your friends' kids. That's like a tricky thing. Like I always felt like awkward about that, but like luckily we've built. I think we're in a good place with that. But my wife is here right now, and this was something that we really did struggle with early on. So this is Katie, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, this is my wife.
Hi.
And I just real quick, when we first had Henry, we really felt like alone on an island. Like even like your parents, like it felt like like we would burden them if we would like ask for help, or just like
in the neighborhood, like the community we lived in, just nobody was in the same phase of life that we were in.
That was hard. Everyone was like in their 40s.
Didn't have little kids. I remember our first Halloween there, we got one trick-or-treater. Like there just weren't.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was so sad.
Everybody was in, nobody was in our phase of life.
Yeah, and that was
right around us. So that was hard. Or like I would have friends, but they'd live a little bit farther away, and you maybe weren't necessarily friends with their husbands. So we didn't do a lot of things as like,
as like couples or
as
anything like
couples.
that. And I feel like there were not too many times, but I feel like we would kind of like get a little like chippy about that a couple times.
Oh yeah.
Like it was a strenuous thing. And honestly, it wasn't until we moved to where we are now where it felt like, I don't know, it felt like our lives kind of like picked up, and it was truly like healthy for not just our family, excuse me, but like just, I don't know, like it felt, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it was very helpful for a marriage to
kind of a
have
relief.
kind of that social element.
Right.
Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Well, to have the couple you can go out with, right? The co-parent group.
Huge.
Yeah, it's big, and it's hard because like it's very hard to find couples that you are like you would go on a trip with, right? I feel like there's maybe only like one or two, and I feel like we're lucky to even have that, because I feel like there's so many, you know, couples out there, parents out there who like don't even have like that one trusted, like, you know, friend that they can
you have the friend you can spend 4 hours with, the friend you can spend 8 hours with, and the friend you can be like, we're going away for a week, it'll be fine. Like, if my kid's a problem, you yell at them, I'll yell at your kids. Yeah. We're all good. Right. Yeah. But there's also the people who are like, no, like 2.5 hours, we're done. Like,
Tops.
Long dinner, I'm out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those, you know, where you just kind of like do it, and like the kids are friendly, but like I don't really need to hang out with his dad, you know. It's just like whatever. So there's a handful of that, but anyway.
Well, it makes us both happier. Like,
I think
for
our
you to have your
situation too,
friend-
it's like,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
yeah. So like with our situation too, like we had you know, we had our built-in friend group, and then we're very fortunate, like the neighborhood we moved to, we are also surrounded by people that we get along with really well. You know, the majority of the people around us, it's like they're essentially extended family. Like, we're at dinner at each other's houses pretty regularly.
That's
like
amazing.
if we're throwing a cookout, there's a core group of people that always get invited. If our neighbors are, you know, having a pool party, or they're just like, hey, we're just hanging out in the backyard, you want to come over? Like, that's a regular thing where they're just like, hey, we're having drinks on the back patio. And like for us, it's convenient as parents because we can put our kids down. We can see them on the monitors from this neighbor's house. So like if we decide to walk over and have a drink and hang out, we can still see the kids. We know they're safe, and we don't have to get a sitter. And I think that's also one of like the biggest challenges of making friends as an adult, is especially once you have kids are so much overhead with like going out. Like if somebody hosts an adults only anything, it's like, all right, I got to get a sitter or ask a friend or ask a family member or do this and then pay them and all these other things. Yeah, and eventually it becomes like, you know what? I'm just going to stay home. They're so expensive. Like, I'm just going to stay home at that point and save myself, you know, $300 in extra expenses to go to some random dinner.
No, seriously. Yeah, we're literally, it's going to happen to us on Thursday. We're like, we had to do the whole thing. It's a night out. It's not just the movie and like a dinner anymore. It's like there's so much more preparation and logistics, and who's going to find the sitter, and what, and who's the plan B if sitter goes, you know, it's like, I'm sick now. It's like, okay, we have to fall back, and you know, then there's, you know, how much we got to pay them and all that. But then it also, another thing about us is that we aren't, I would say that we're not the most like proactive about like, hey, let's plan this, let's do that, right? And luckily we do have friends that kind of push us out of our comfort zone and invite us to things that we would otherwise just be like, let's just stay home and like watch something. You know, I'm actually grateful for those people to actually like invite us to stuff, because we need that. It's healthy for us, because if we didn't have that, we would honestly just kind of just hang and just sit. But and while that is relaxing in the moment, I think in the long term, our long-term health, our relationship, I think it would be strained.
We're happier because of it.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is we need to get you tickets to the theater, like season tickets. So every month you have to go see another bad community production and actually get out of the house as a trigger. Like, hey, you're going to go see Les Miserables without any of the murder. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's made by teenagers. So just so that you have date night.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you go, but thanks for.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice
Yeah,
to meet
nice
you.
to meet you.
Anywho, yeah, man, it's
mean-
it's a fun topic.
You know what the best part for me, the best part about our friend group who has kids and developing those relationships is we all have the same understanding. Like everyone I socialize with who has kids understands that if they don't parent their children, I will.
Mhm.
And if they don't like how I do it, then they need to actually do it. And that goes vice versa, right? If I'm not paying attention to my kid, they are free to parent them how they are parenting. And I am not going to get mad about it because I wasn't paying attention.
And that's
At
actually
moment X, Y, or Z. And that's so important, in my opinion, to the adult parent friendship relationship. Like
so.
that level of trust.
I think everyone has such a different take on that, like because that's a tricky one. Like I am okay if my kids step out of line for our friends to just kind of like, hey, Henry, to discipline them as needed, like not like lay a hand on them or anything like that. But
Right.
I feel like that's also a tricky thing. I feel like in today's world, like some parents are just like, no, you don't do that. That's my thing. Like I don't know. I'm still of the, I guess, old traditional mindset that like you can help each other keep people accountable as opposed to just like they'll figure it out.
It takes a village.
Legitimately,
It really
takes a
does.
village.
It takes
It
a
really
village.
does.
And if you're not willing to trust the other elders in your village, why are you in that village with them? Like
Right. So I do want to talk about like tactically though, if you are in a situation that I was in a couple years ago and you're like, hey, like what, I am craving friendship. Like it's something like I love my family, but I need more. I need more. Luckily, as guys, I feel like we tend to go about our hobbies a little bit more frequently, whether that's working out or whatever. But if truly like you don't feel like you're in the right community, first embracing the hobbies.
I just had this like.
Go ahead.
You just said as guys, and my brain immediately went to, yeah, we're all solo hobos. Like, we're perfectly fine on a train with our bag for months on an end. Like, just, I don't need nobody, man. It's all good.
Yeah, dude.
And then there's that one day when you're like, I just want a hug, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, dude. But I would say, if it's cars, if it's music, if it's photography, finding those Facebook groups that cater to the same hobbies, and then like actually basically getting out and then meeting with them to indulge in the hobbies. I talk about this briefly in the course, but for me, it's competitive Pokemon. I get out there to these card shops with just weird people. They're just weird people. But they've become my friends. They're just, I've just, and
But they're your kind of weird.
Yeah.
They're your weird people.
Yeah. Exactly.
Everybody's
they are,
got their weirdo they like, and they're your weirdos.
Exactly. And it makes me happy. It's that time that I, that I can, break away. And I think scheduling that time, we talked about it with George in the last episode, but like being intentional about time, we talk about that doing that at home, but doing that, I've talked about like having a Google content, not a content calendar. Sorry. That's work. A Google calendar for the family. And we'll block out like tonight, like Katie was in her Pilates things because she goes, leading up to recording, I was with the kids. I did dinner and the whole shabam while she was at Pilates. And then she came back and then we trade off. I record and then she finishes the night with cleaning and stuff like that. So but that's on the calendar, right? She schedules that so she can go be with her friends and do her thing. And because that's her hobby. I have the same thing. And I think it's important that we don't lose sight of that.
Yeah.
I think for guys, sorry, Ben.
No, go ahead.
I think one of the other pieces that as adults we forget is there's a lot of fear around meeting a new person based purely on like the rejection of meeting a new human, right?
Yes.
Because at this point we've all been rejected multiple times by people. And one of the things that I found was if you use an app like Meetup or you do Google events or you do like the cooking classes at your local sur la table or right, whatever you do, everybody who shows up at those events is there to socialize. So they don't reject you, right? Now, you walk in and you're a complete jerk, you'll get rejected quickly. But as long as you're open to the experience, most people are fairly accepting and fairly willing to be like, hey, yeah, come join us. Let's do this thing. And it might not be your crowd. You don't have to show up the next week, but you need to just dive past that initial fear of like, what if this group of people doesn't like me? Because again, in my experience, 95% of the time, they just accepted you and you either kept going because you liked it, or you were like, hiking up a mountain every Saturday isn't my thing. Sorry, you guys are great, but it's not my activity, right? I'm going to go play Pokemon with Andrew.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is most people care more about themselves than they do about you, right? The majority of people, they're in their own heads doing their own thing. Most people don't even acknowledge your existence. So like being afraid that they're going to reject you is, once you realize like kind of it does feel terrible to be rejected, but once you realize it's kind of a silly fear because most other people are probably also worried about being rejected in some way, shape, or form, or they just don't care enough to reject you anyways, which that's fine. I know like for us, one of the things we've been trying to do more of is we do have a great friend circle and a great neighbor circle, but to expand that for our kids a little bit more. So like our kids, our son is in daycare. We ask him actively about the kids he plays with the most. So like, who are your friends at school? What do you do? What do you like about them? And then we try to, meet their parents, meet up with them. Like he just kind of started doing like play dates with friends, right? So we ask him like, all right, who's your friend at school? What do you do? What do you like about them? Have that conversation. And then we'll, kind of find one of those parents at a shared birthday party or whatever it is, meet them, kind of have a conversation, see, do we get along? Is it just small talk? Is it too uncomfortable? Kind of how do we feel about that? And then from there, it's like either you just leave it at a daycare parent that we happen to see every now and then, or you exchange numbers. And then that's where, play dates start to happen. You start to do like dinners together and all that. And you kind of build a real friendship out of your kids just occupying the same physical space.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what we've learned, that, a lot of our friends, well, it's like we don't even have to work for it sometimes, because it's just like, it's my kids who are like, hey, I like this kid. And then it's like through Henry, he introduces me to the mom and dad of his friend. And I'm like, hey, what's up? And then, so I feel like your kids start to become kind of that catalyst for opening up new conversations. But Ben, you, when we were in Vegas, you had a funny little interaction with the opposite, right? Dealing with a parent that it's like, man, you're not like, I don't know that we're going to be best friends here.
We are not going to like
each other. You are not in my tribe.
Can you like, explain how you navigated that? If you, I mean, you don't
know, because it's just not. It's not well. It's not like in a mature fashion. I'm sure that I'd want to represent myself. But here's the thing: is
he
like,
just swiped block,
right?
He's like swipe block done.
Yeah, you're not gonna vibe with everybody, right? Like some people, it just doesn't work for you. And you have to be okay with that. Of just like, I can deal with this person in large groups and in group gatherings, but maybe one-on-one isn't really for us because we just don't mesh. And I think that's okay. And I think that everybody's worried about being that person that nobody meshes with. Mm-hmm. But it's like, 9 times out of 10, people can find some sort of common ground. But it's just finding that common ground that can be a challenge. It can be really scary. But, like you said, Andrew, it got me thinking that like all the friends that we have in this area were met through somebody else, somebody we worked with, somebody we had some sort of like professional or non-friendship acquaintanceship with, right? We weren't friends at first. But once we met that person, they introduced us to someone else who introduced us to someone else. And now we have people who have been in our wedding and, are the closest people in our lives. I think we discount our kids from being mature enough to be the catalyst for adult friendships, right? We think our kid doesn't know enough or perceive enough to be the reason that we end up with a larger friend group. So if we can kind of trust that and say, you know what, I trust my kid's barometer for other kids, like, they seem to do really well. They have good social interactions. So if they're having good social interactions with these other kids, then what's to say that those parents aren't also probably raising a kid with good social skills, meaning they probably also have good social skills, meaning you could have a very real friendship out of that. So I think it's just kind of trusting that your child is going to be able to help you get into that. And really allowing yourself to be open to those interactions.
Yeah. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Like, Henry is very friendly with a ton of kids. And one of them, he is just like Henry. I mean, they both are so enthusiastic about sports, particularly football and soccer and basketball. They're just like, they love it. And Katie is somewhat close to the friend's mom, and I'm not particularly close to the dad, but like we gave it a shot. Like it's our kids they play so well together. Are we gonna be best friends? Like no, but we will be friendly. And so like Ben said earlier, it's not always gonna hit. But it's good to just kind of be in the environment and continue just to put yourself out there. But I think we've kind of touched a little bit on this because I feel like they kind of do go hand in hand. But the importance of self-care for dads. Okay. This is really important because we lose our sense of self because I feel like our identity really gets wrapped up at around our kids. Like, I'm a dad now, this is it, and then some guys go complete opposite, like where it's like, no, I don't care if I have a family or kid now. Like my identity is who I was. I'm still bar hopping. I'm still doing my thing, so, and that's kind of the opposite pendulum, which I'm not a massive fan of. But for those who really kind of lean in and really commit to being a family man, there is the risk of like losing your sense of self, and it's important to maintain, just those rituals for self-care. What for you guys does that look like, and how do you kind of maintain some things that are still important to you for your own mental health?
I mean, for me, it comes down to it. As cliche as this sounds, I actually go to the barber and get a haircut and a beard trim, and it's like an hour and a half. And right, it is truly like when I'm feeling run down, I'm looking run down. Like, and you guys have seen it. Like, I've gotten shaggy, and it's just like, you need a beard trim and a shave, man. Like, and I'll go the next couple days, and it kind of rejuvenates in the sense that for me, right, when I feel like I'm looking good, I'm usually feeling good, right? And if I'm looking shabby, I'm probably feeling shabby. And that isn't a direct reflection, but it definitely falls into that, like, just taking the time to groom yourself, even if it's just you doing it, really, for whatever reason, restores that sense of, I'm okay, I'm doing all right, the world isn't going to come to an end, right? I don't know. Does that make sense? Like that, just taking the time. And I don't put gel in my hair, right? There's nothing major going on here. It's just slightly combed when I get out of the shower, right? It's not a huge regimen. I mean, I'm not cowlicking it up every day. I'm just
Yeah. So no, I get it. Ben, what about you, man?
Yeah, I think it's something I struggled with for a while. So, coming out of like right before we had a kid, I was competing in powerlifting. And so I realized a lot of my identity got wrapped up in my strength, like my physical ability. So training, at least like 2 to 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, eating to get big, eating to get strong, constantly thinking about like train, recover over and over and over again. Even though it's, it's not a professional sport, I'm not going to be in the top tier of it, but it's something I really, really enjoyed. I made a bunch of friends doing it that we would all train together. So it was like instead of going to the bar, it was like our source of camaraderie, right? We'd go and meet up at the gym, we'd train for a couple hours, and then do it all again the next day. Well, obviously when you have a kid, that 2 to 3 hour block of time that you would go spend training at the gym, like, does not exist anymore.
Right.
And so I really had to shift mentally. One, to not being able to train as frequently, right? Like, I'm not training 5 days a week. If I can get 2 days a week in, that's phenomenal. And then the type of training that you do. So not being able to do a couple of hours, I can only do, an hour is like an exceptionally long workout for me now, because I want to spend time with my kids and my family. So 30 minutes is usually at 30, 40 minutes, unless I can get up early and, do a little bit more. So I had to work through a lot of that, like, mentally, right? Because you start to feel like you're losing who you are, and kind of not regretting like having kids, but just feeling like something's been taken away from you. And so I would focus more on, if I can't develop myself physically the way I want to, then how can I get better, mentally? So can I read more? Can I, I started journaling. That was a big help for me. Like, when I had just really confusing feelings or didn't know how I felt about something, I found that if I sat down and I wrote about it, that I could get some clarity and reflection to understand what it was what my mind was trying to tell me, rather than being sort of just confused and upset and letting the emotions get the best of me. If I put it down and just typed it up in a note, then I could basically have a conversation with myself and say, well, why am I thinking about this? Why do I feel this way? What do I think is driving this? And then what can I do to resolve it? Is there a way I can get better at this? Or is this something that's just out of my control and I need to sort of accept it and move on? So those, like, getting into like a little bit of, like, again, I mean, this is not for everybody, but like a little bit of meditation, some journaling, some reading, getting into some kind of self-development podcasts to just feel like I was making progress somewhere, to me was like my biggest version of self-care, because that's my break. That's my time to tune my brain into something that's engaging, that I feel like is pushing me forward, and that will drive me to be better in other aspects of my life, especially in my goal to be a better dad.
I think one of the best ways that I've heard it put was that, like, if I can't take care of me, then how am I going to be able to take care of you? Like, it's a direct impact on your ability to parent properly. And if you're not taking the right time to really help yourself and keep yourself in check by just simple things that you enjoy, right? And it doesn't always have to be, like, physical, like the way Ben and I might, do, because I too, find that peace and solace through just, working out. Pickleball recently has been my new thing. Lifting, all that, whether that's gaming, or just, any of that. That's important stuff to partake in, and it's not wasted time that you are, sitting in front of a PC and doing your thing, or, watching a show, or, that's not wasted time. It's not time to feel guilty because you're away from your kids and you're neglecting your duties as a parent. That's not what that is. And I think that's a very common misconception. What it is you recharging and refueling for your own sake. And you need to do that. So yeah, I'm sorry.
You can't pour from an empty glass.
Well, and it's a balance, right? I mean, as we talked about with George last time, you have to remember to still be present as a father in your kid's life, in your wife's life, in your partner's life, right? Because as Ben put it, yeah, you might think that 3 hours of working out is what you need for self-care, but is that what's best for the family? Like, what does it take to recharge your batteries versus what do they need you to sacrifice to be able to do it, right? It is a balancing act, and it's not unfortunately I have seen friends go into the, like, gaming spiral, where they're playing 6-8 hours a day, and it's the no, this is, I just need this to relax. And it's like, dude, you got a parent for 3 more hours, 5 more hours a day. Like, play the game, put it down after 60 minutes, and go take care of the kid because they're over there screaming. Like, so it is a balancing act. Does that make sense? Like,
it's a difference between tipping. Yeah, it's a difference
Right.
between tipping from like self-care to escapism, right?
Right.
So am I escaping my reality because I'm not dealing with the things in front of me and they're causing anxiety, they're causing issues, or am I using this as a tool? And again, it's about intentionality. So am I intentionally using this as a tool so that I can be better at the things I want to be better at? And the intentionality has to come from your prioritization. So if my priorities are, I need to make sure I'm there for the family, the kids, whatever. I need to make sure I'm setting a good example. Part of that means I need to get myself and give myself the space and develop the mental capacity to be able to handle those situations when things fall apart, right? Because not everything's going to be rosy all the time. Like, we all know that. Your kids are going to scream at you. They're going to lose it. And if you don't have that extra battery to kind of pull from and say, okay, you know what, I got my workout in today, I'm just chemically more balanced, right? It's much easier for me to look at this and go, you know what, maybe they're just tired and hungry and I can handle the situation differently, versus now I'm going to snap at them, or I'm going to be upset, or I'm going to say something I don't want to say because I'm drained and I don't have the capacity to deal with that. And you're also setting an example for your kids, right? Like, take care of yourself, whether it's physical or something else. They need to also see that as an example. And that's important for them to understand, that they can, take a break, recharge themselves so that they can give more to the world, their family, their hobbies, their profession, whatever it is.
Yeah. And, it's funny that you mentioned that on that note, because I was actually talking about this with a couple of friends of ours, because, we enjoy working out, and our kids see us in our home gyms kind of doing our thing. But we also want to be careful. And this is a little bit more off topic, but we also want to we're cognizant of not, because I have had personally body image issues. I was teased so much just for being, the fat chubby kid and all that stuff. So I work out to recharge, but I also work out to really maintain, I want to be healthy. Right. But when I say healthy before, that meant being 6-pack abs healthy. Now, when I say healthy, I'm just talking about I want my cardiovascular health. I want to be flexible. I want to move, it's just for that. And when we, a couple of our friends, we were talking about when we're working out in front of our kids, are we putting too much emphasis on keeping our bodies toned and shape and stuff like that? Because that was never a thing back then. Now we've all got home gyms. Because for me, that's not so much of an issue, because I was like, hey, do you know why I work out? And I tell my kids this too, do you know why I work out? And then they said, it makes you stronger. And I say, where? And they don't point at their bicep. They don't point here. They point here. I says, because it makes you stronger here, And for those who aren't watching on the YouTube, because I tend to forget about this for the audio podcast, they don't point at, they weren't pointing at their bicep or their shoulders. They're pointing at their head. Because it's for me, working out is a mental thing, and it helps the brain, right? And that's kind of the way that we try to spin it for our kids. But that's just a random thing that we've kind of been cognizant of with our because a couple friends of ours, same thing, body image issues, but it kind of they work out so much for body image. And I think her daughter is starting to see that a little bit, and kind of that some subtle things are being communicated that they don't want to
it's such a challenge to balance that and communicate why you're doing it, because again, I mean, we were all kids at some point. We all have insecurities. I mean, we see that every day. Whatever your insecurities are, you carry that right through, and it comes right out in how you parent. You are And I think as dads, the reason we have these conversations, the reason we do this podcast, the reason Dad Verb was created is to start to help break some of those cycles and some of those tropes of what a dad is and should be. And so when I have conversations with my son, because he loves to come out to the home gym, if I'm doing kettlebells or something, he's got a couple little 4-kilo kettlebells that he'll pick up and do deadlifts with, and he has fun out there. Mm-hmm. But when I tell him why I work out, I'm telling him kind of a similar thing to you, Andrew, where I'm telling him, like, I work out when I can because I want to be there for him as long as I can. Right. And that's a part of it, is like, if I am not actively trying to maintain that longevity, even though I have very little control over it, anything that I can do to keep pushing me towards, maybe I'll be here for 75 years instead of 70. Right. If I can get a couple more years out of it, then that to me is all worth it. If I can play with, if I'm lucky enough to eventually have grandkids, if I can play with my grandkids and not just have them go over and be like, oh, grandpa can't get up out of his lazy boy because like his knees hurt too much. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I don't want to be. And I don't know, maybe that coming from like a blue collar family where like my grandfather worked a very physical job. Well into his like mid 70s, he was working like, 50, 60 hours a week when he retired to work 40 hours a week. Mm-hmm. So like, but he was always like out doing something or playing with us or doing work in the yard or whatever. And like, that's the kind of experience I want to have eventually, is like still being physically capable as an elderly person.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I think you made a good point earlier, Ben. And I remember reading a book, First Time Dad, the stuff you really need to know, right? It was like, okay, she's pregnant. Let's go get the stuff I actually need. I didn't finish it, so didn't have a lot of useful information in the first few chapters. But one of the things it did say was, don't use a major life change, a major project, right? You're pregnant now is not the time to go start your master's degree. It's not the time to write your novel. It's not the time to start a small business, right? Mm-hmm. And his point was, you need to focus on the pregnancy and your child and this new phase of your life, not try and escape that for something that's more comfortable because you're really good at website design or marketing or weightlifting or mountain biking or whatever it is. Don't go into the escapism realm. And for me, it's very important to maintain that line as my kids are getting older, and as I'm looking at like how I'm approaching different projects in my life, right? Mm-hmm. Because again, it's a delicate line, I think, between that self-care aspect and the escapism into, this is a thing that I can do that gets me out of being a parent, right? Yeah. And it's sad that we have to do that, but that's what I would encourage everybody to do. Like, look at your activities. Doesn't mean they're wrong, doesn't mean they're bad, but ask yourself truly, are you doing this because you're trying to escape being a dad? Or are you doing it because it's actually refilling your batteries, right? Like mowing the lawn. It sounds stupid. Mowing the lawn, dude, is an hour and a half escape from being a parent.
It's escapism, dude.
It's escapism, but it is a task that needs done.
It does,
and but it has an end point, right? But it's not an unlimited task, right? Because at some point, the yard is mowed, it's weed whacked, it's blown away. At some point, you're done, and you can go back inside.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that about myself, but I'm not volunteering to mow the entire block either, because I know that I have to go back inside and parent my kid, right? Yeah. Anyway, just a weird piece.
Yeah, I don't. That's actually a funny topic. That it's true. Yard work can be a form of escapism. It's like, but we can't be fined by our HOA, so I has to be done, babe. So no, but
there you go.
Well, I think we really did chat about a good breadth of stuff right there. But I think we can put that to rest. If you guys do have any sort of comments that you'd like to add, please let us know in the comment section of the YouTube video, or you can always just shoot us an email at hello@dadverb.com. if you really want to kind of add a little bit more, or just reach out to us on Discord as well.
Join the conversation on Discord.
Yeah, man, that's always a thing. But speaking of, let's go ahead and pop into one of the questions that came in from David from New York City, my home baby. We're in the process of switching, and this question came in today actually. So we're in the process of switching from pre-mixed bottled formula to powdered. And we are confused on how to measure it. Before, we'd pour 6 ounces of the pre-mixed and record it as a 6-ounce feeding. Now with powdered, we have 6 ounces of water, and then adding the powder and mixing, we're left with 7 ounces. Is this a 7-ounce feeding? 6 ounce? Is 6 ounces of pre-mix really only like 5 ounces of water? How are we supposed to measure and record this?
Yeah,
This is such a funny.
This is a very.
Here's the bougie answer. I got the bougie answer.
This is a very new dad question, because we've all stood there and had this conversation with ourselves.
You buy the baby
how
Brezza.
can I measure things wrong?
You buy the baby Brezza, you set the formula, it pours it for you. You don't worry about it ever.
There's that. But also, I think if it's 6 ounces of liquid, it's a 6-ounce feeding to me. But also at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I feel like we have such a, we've been around the block, all of us, and I think it's safe to say that it's kind of like, you're good, man. Don't even worry about it. Like, the baby will eat what they'll eat as long as they're growing on their curve. Like, it doesn't matter. And it's funny, the whole, like, how did we record this? I'm like, baby 1, we recorded everything. Baby 2 and 3, we were just like, oh man, we just forgot.
Yeah.
Look, it says on the side of the formula bottle how many scoops per ounces of water. And as long as you're getting close to that ratio, it doesn't matter if it's 6, 7, or 8 on the line on the bottle, because your kid's getting enough nutrients. What you can't do is put in a half a scoop and twice as much water as it says for a half a scoop, because then you're diluting your formula and your kid is not getting enough nutrients, right? Yeah. And the way I've always judged it when I'm on the road or we're just using a stick is, does it look like the milk in my fridge? If it's opaque and it's got the same consistency, I'm fine. There are times when I've overwatered it and it's gotten to that translucent where I can like see my hand on the other side of the bottle, and I'm like, all right, I need more powder at this moment. I did not put enough in, or I dumped too much of the water bottle into the baby bottle. Like, but trust your gut. They're going to be fine.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't
like for us, and this is just our practice in our house, just after talking to our pediatrician, the way we measure ours, we measure our liquid first. So do your, if I'm making a quote 6-ounce bottle, I'm measuring 6 ounces of liquid, because as Andrew said, that's the important part with the ratio of scoops of powdered formula to liquid. So put your liquid in first, scoop in your powder. For us, we use Bobby formula, so it's like 2 scoops for 6 ounces. And then I count that as a 6-ounce bottle, right? It's 6 ounces of liquid. It's not vastly off from that. It might show 6.5 with the bubbles or whatnot, but I think by the time you get to the second kid, like where we are now, you learn not to sweat stuff like that. Stuff where you're half an ounce off, a quarter ounce off. We did the same thing as you, Andrew. Like, we measured everything. We have the Hatch Grow like changing table where we would measure feedings because it was accurate enough, so we knew exactly how much our son was getting pretty much at all times.
Yeah.
With the second one, we're like, man, we kept one alive for 2.5, 3 years, and he's perfectly fine. And he used to eat stuff off the floor. And now our daughter does the same thing. Like, she'll randomly grab stuff off the floor and you got to fish it out of her mouth. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, she's probably fine. It's okay.
I feel like my reviews on YouTube have slowly declined, simply because I was in such new dad mode and I was so just into every minute detail about every little thing. And then as time went on, I'm just like, just get whatever. It's fine. That's basically what happened. But luckily, I'm
fine,
doing a
don't worry about
review
it.
of a baby monitor right now, and I feel like for the first time in a few months, I'm kind of like, damn, I went all in on like trying to really nitpick at every little detail to make sure
Nice.
that you're buying the right monitor. But no, I mean, David, hopefully this helped answer your question.
Let me throw you a different curveball, David. Say you put 6 ounces of water in, you put the proper scoops in, and then your kid only drinks half of whatever that measurement was,
Which is a lot.
How
of
much
the time.
did they actually consume
Right.
versus how much you put in the bottle? Because let's be clear, they don't always finish the
They're
bottle.
never finishing the
And
bottle.
this
man.
whole thing is a giant guess as to how much they're actually consuming.
Can I ask?
I personally think I've dumped more formula down the drain
Bro,
than I have put into the baby.
just
Like,
the amount of how many hundreds of dollars of formula have we just like dumped?
Oh my
It's just
God.
so much. Dude.
oh my
Yo,
gosh.
I'm Ben. I'm curious. I think you've dumped a little bit more because you're using the bougie Bobby stuff. Tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me. I'm just curious. That's we only ever use like Similac, a little bit of Enfamil.
Mhm.
How is the Bobby thing?
So we didn't use it with our son because I don't think it existed yet. Our daughter has done really, really well on it. We've had some questions for like their customer service has been fantastic. If we've reached out with any sort of questions, suggestions, help us understand X, Y, or Z. But it's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, I think our latest order is four canisters of it is $100. So it's about $25 a canister, which means
How long is that lasting?
Maybe a week per canister, probably a lot less. Yeah.
$100
Whoa.
a month. I mean, that's
So-
just what it is. That is
Yeah.
what it is. I mean, it's
But I
funny.
mean, my son was also on another gosh, I can't remember. Not Happy Baby. It's they carry it in Target. It's like one of I think it's called the Happy Baby Organics or something like that. But it was another like kind of sensitive organic baby formula. That one worked really, really well, but it was right around the same price, like $25 to $30. So it's about the same. It's expensive though.
It is.
Wow.
I am happy to say that we are. I think we're done with the that phase. But on the bougie kind of like baby stuff, we only ever really use Pampers, Huggies, diapers. But I gotta say, Cautery is a kind of a newer, nicer like brand of diaper. I thought it was just they're all the same. It's just a frou diaper. It is a really nice diaper. Have you guys tried Cautery on your babies?
We did.
We're Huggies all the way.
I gotta say, give Cautery a shot, man. They're pretty nice. They're
They're
good.
super
I'll go
nice,
buy
but
a pack, but I'm
They're
a
expensive,
Huggies,
though.
Gerber, Enfamil, Similac, and I think we talked about this at some point, right? My kid drinks whatever formula I put in the bottle, and a lot of times it's
They're just
a mixture. Like, look, this is not recommended. Your pediatrician will never say mix all the formula, okay? But
oh yeah, you did this, yeah.
we did a test with each kid where we fed one for a week to see if there was any reactions, and there weren't. So we just went with forget it, buy them, throw them, mix them up, and she drinks them all. They both do, and I cannot imagine spending $100 a week on formula. Like we're spending. I bet you I spend $300 a month on formula. Easily.
300?
Maybe not that. I mean, it's $50 a container. I buy them every couple of weeks.
Does it?
Yeah, but I always buy 3. Like I buy one of each every time. So
Really?
we always have a month of formula basically.
Oh, we went the Costco route and bought Similac, and it was like $50 a canister, and that would like last us like a couple of weeks. So we were probably paying somewhere like $100 a month. It was. I think we were.
We're actually probably comparative to that. We're so it's $25 per canister. We probably go because we only have one on formula, so we probably go through a canister every like 5 to 7 days. I would say, like a full can.
Yeah.
So it's probably $100 to $150 a month, somewhere in there.
I feel like we found.
But yeah, so I will say with the Coterie diapers though, we tried those. We actually didn't like them.
Why?
So we had all kinds of like blowout issues. We did like a sample
really?
pack, and they did not work for our daughter.
Oh,
The ones we
ours
did
is-
find that work really well, that are kind of a good middle ground, but are surprisingly cheaper, are the Million Moon diapers at Target.
Oh, I haven't tried those.
So we've always done like Huggies, but the Million Moon ones work really well for her, and they're surprisingly soft. They're not super expensive, but they feel much more premium than like the Huggies and Pampers and all that stuff. But yeah, it seems like a good middle ground between like Coterie and then like Huggies.
Yo, Ben, I think soon on the Dad Verb channel, that should be one of our videos. We break down Huggies, Pampers, Coterie, Hello Bello, the one you just mentioned. Let's just break them all down. But anyway,
cut them all open.
Yeah,
pouring samples of liquid into them.
that.
I don't know what will quantify as like a good diaper longevity test, blowout test, but we'll figure something out. I think it'd be a great video. But let's land the plane here. Let's wrap things up with our 5-star review. And guys, leave us some comments on YouTube. We'll read them. At then 00B Warrior. I'm glad this podcast is back. I love this. You're very welcome. We're glad it's back too. Hopefully we've been delivering on our promise to stay a little bit more consistent. Yes, we are back. We're on it. And we hope to keep churning out more content for you guys to just continue to build on this community of dads. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Dad Verb Podcast. Big thanks to our sponsors, No One. We're still on that No One train, guys. So no sponsors. It's all self-produced here. But thank you for listening. And thanks to Andrew and Ben for joining as usual. If you haven't already, you definitely want to check out the Dad Verb Discord community. You can check out the link in the description of the video or the show notes, wherever you get your podcast. And for you new and expectant dads out there, you can check out dadverb.com. We've got courses from pregnancy all the way up through the first year of fatherhood. It's a great resource, just packed full of information and interviews and guides and PDFs to help guide you through, again, the first year of fatherhood. Again, I already said thank you to you guys, but Andrew, Ben, it's always just great being able to catch up to you. This is our escapism, right? Ditching our responsibilities.
Right, yeah.
There are no responsibilities. It's late at night, isn't it?
And my kids are in bed by now.
Way to bring the podcast around.
Ditching my responsibility to go to sleep.
Right. We're all tired here. I'm Andrew. Thank you for listening. And remember to show your support by liking, subscribing on YouTube. And remember to hit that bell icon to turn on notifications so you can be aware of any time we have a new video for you guys. Until next time, keep dadding like a pro. Happy dadding, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.